Traders, it is Monday, and it is Matt and Jacey with Empire Algorithmic Trading here to bring you your daily dose of Vwapvision's Stock Talk.
It's where we use the volume weighted average price to clean out all the noise and just pay attention to the market. So let's just get right to it, man. A little stock talk.
Yeah, let's stock some talks, buddy.
Well, happy Monday, Matt. I hope it's been a nice one for you. It was pretty nice down here in the Sunshine State. Nice quiet day on the market. I had to look to try and just find some interesting charts. So it took me a hot second, but I think I got a couple together there. So let me just
All
bring up some
right.
charts and we'll take a look. How's your day been? Pretty good?
Oh, cannot complain, man. A beautiful Monday. So,
Right on. It wouldn't do any good if we did. So
right.
one of my favorite quotes, actually. All right, we're going to switch back to the bond market because it's getting back in that danger zone, right? We thought we were looking good. It was hanging out there, but the last 3 days is sold off quite significantly. And fortunately, the stocks have held up, right? So, but bonds are getting to that danger zone. We're going to keep a close eye on that. The S&P just gapped down a little bit, held closely at the bottom. And this was kind of a pattern for the day for pretty much almost every stock I looked at. Same thing with the Nasdaq Composite, down 0.7%. The S&P closed down 0.6%. Small caps down 0.7%, and then same thing with the mid caps. Mid caps actually held up quite well. They rallied up a little bit off the bottom, closed 0.2% down, the best of all. And as always, whenever the market closes down, VIX went up. I was thinking about this a little bit this morning. I mean, the VIX really still is pretty elevated, right? So I think just in general, the market really isn't a big believer in this rally. And I read I don't read a lot, but a couple of the things I did read from some other traders, and they were thinking the same thing. They're thinking this rally has pretty much seen its best days, right? And but I'm also kind of thinking that once everybody thinks that, that's usually when the market doesn't do that. And I too,
Right.
I'm also one that thinks that this is going to test. I hope it holds potentially this VWAP, the all-time VWAP, or at least down to the 5,300 level. If we test back down here in the 4,900, that's probably going to ruin a lot of charts. We got some really good looking double bottoms. What we want is a decent pullback to create some handles. And when we start looking at some charts, you'll get an idea of what I was talking about in that regard. So TG Therapeutics, let's just look at some stocks here. TG Therapeutics had a really nice breakout going on, and then it just got crushed today. I don't think there were any earnings. It looks like earnings are due on the 7th, which I think is Wednesday. And so that's a bit unfortunate, just a crushing there. Hopefully, if you did buy into TG Therapeutics breakout, I mean, it was up 10% last week from the breakout. And so you're well within period to take some profits, which would then lower your break-even point, which you can ride that kind of insane volatility out. So I believe this is about, I forgot to put my glasses on, so I can't quite tell. It's about 9% below the closing price on the buy point day. And so if you take your profits are 7 or 8%, 5 to 8%, I should say, then you're either just a small loss or break even point, depending on where you pulled and how much you pulled out. So that's why we always say sell into some of that strength. But also this could be a precursor, right? This is what we don't want to see in stocks. It had a little cup going here. I mean, it's a short cup, but it's a little cup. We're just going to call it a little cup. And it was going without a handle. And then the volatility just brought it right back down. Shopify is just doing the absolute opposite, right? It tried to break out. It tried to fail, but buyers are coming in. The sellers tried to push it down and buyers brought it back up above the VWAP. And then same thing. It was starting to set up again. And then buyers pushed it down at the open and the stock rallied throughout the day. So
Right.
it's the polar opposite of TG Therapeutics, but Shop is setting up quite well. So keep a close eye on that one. Same
I
thing
will
with
say for TG Therapeutics, it does sound like that was an earnings report crash. It sounds like they came in way under their projections.
Oh, yeah, maybe a pre-warning is what it was. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'll do it, man. Yeah, earnings are always a little nerve-wracking experience. Sometimes they're good, and sometimes, like as you can see,
Yeah.
not so good. I mean, poor, what was it? WGC that got crushed. No, is it? No, WDC? No, what was it last week? Gene DX, WGS. There you go. Yeah, that got smoked last week. Interesting is finding support at the VWAP, but
Yeah.
45% haircut in one day doesn't do anybody any good. They're like, oh, thanks for the support. A little too late. FEIM, this is an interesting one. So, looking at it here, you have all these long shadows here, which is a pretty bearish sign, right? You've got a nice strong uptrend and then some clear rejection of any attempt to move higher. But the interesting thing is you kind of continuing some higher lows here. And then when you scran out a little bit, it kind of looks a little bit like a handle as well. This isn't the cleanest. This little day right here is the cleanest. But I wanted to bring this up just because it's an interesting looking chart, and you got conflicting signals, and it's a potential. It's just it looks interesting. We got our buy signal here. You have a potential handle, you have resistance, and you have potential support all going on at the same time, right below the previous high. And it's also setting up a classic cup and handle pattern. So, pretty interesting market, but this is what we want to see moving forward, right? A lot of our breakouts that we saw going up, we want to see them hang around their previous highs. We don't want to see them crash like TGTX. So, kind of a interesting pattern there. Mercado Libre, same thing. It might be doing a three and go. So we've seen this a ton of times. The stock will run up, flash real quick, three tight down days, kind of settle out, and then just break out of that. So keep an eye on MELI for a possible three and go. And then Rambus is also an interesting one. Clear resistance at this upper VWAP here. But these higher lows are starting to push right up into that. So if the buying support is going to push this higher, or are these sellers going to continue to be able to break that or beat that support to death and bring the stock lower? So kind of a fun little battle to watch. If the buyers push it higher and break out, then that's our signal to get in on the Rambus parade. So kind of an interesting little pattern there. Same thing with Root. Root flashed a buy
Hey.
signal for us last week. It would have shaken you out, right? This, even though on the chart it doesn't look like that much, that's about an 8% hit. So that probably hit anybody's stop loss threshold, and it never really hit any profit targets. So never quite going a negative follow through, but it's setting up again. You have a nice series of higher lows here. It'll be interesting to see if it can blast back out of this little mini trading range. ADMA still setting up tight. I mean, that's just that's just a really the further back you go, the tighter it looks. So that's a pretty nice looking chart pattern there. So keep an eye on that one. And then Carvana, it's doing its best impression of Meta from last year, or from the last
Okay.
rally. I'd say from last year. Feels like last year. This market's been so volatile that 5 months feels like a lifetime.
No
But
kidding.
yeah, it's doing its best Meta impression, still up. Again, we're probably going to start seeing a lot of these stocks run out of gas, run into a little resistance at their previous highs. In Carvana's case, that's around 284. The stock's currently at 259. So the old-fashioned way of reading a cup and handle chart is where to start expecting the handle to form. And it's usually you want to see it in the top half of the base. And so when we built this model, we started catching a lot of these early breakouts, and you start seeing these stocks start forming handles above the middle point. So what you do is you take the high of, what is that, 292, then you got a low of 148. So I'm not going to do it in my head. So that's a midpoint of 220. So you would basically expect a handle to form anywhere between there. Now you want the high of the handle to be within 15% of the previous high as well. So you've got a previous high, like we said, of 292. Hmm. So that's 248.
There.
So that's where the lowest point you would expect to see a handle. So you want the handle to occur above the top point, But since we bought it down here, we would start expecting to see a little bit of a correction, a little bit of resistance starting to come into play above 248. So that's just a little bit of anticipation on how you want to expect, because we buy the first sell signals are always at the very bottom of the base. They're the first breakout. It will come pull back a little bit, most likely. The odds of it continue to clear through this resistance without testing any average is pretty slim. So that's just to keep in mind of when you buy these early breakouts. That's why you want to take some profits early so you get a chance to ride that volatility out. When it breaks out of that handle, it'll most likely flash another buy signal. Then you buy some more stock, and then you do it all over again, and then you have your early position. So then you're able to buy more, take a larger position with actually less risk. And so that's just some simple side notes on how to manage a portfolio, how to manage some of these trades. I have AGX, and so I'm planning on doing the same thing with AGX. I've bought it here. I took some profits last week, and I'm just waiting for it to set up again, present another buying opportunity. Hopefully, it doesn't strike me out right. I got my stop loss points. But hopefully this one sets up correctly, presents another buying opportunity, and then allows me to double down on it safely and add some more shares. So that's a little bit of my strategy with that. ARGX, it did hit another high after its breakout last week. Pretty strong run, man. I mean, it gapped up, held it tight, and then gapped up, and then gapped up again. So ARGX is kind of running away from us there. TVTX, another new high after its breakout. And so it's nice to see some follow-throughs even on a down day. That's the reason why I wanted to kind of bring some of these up, especially some of these more recent breakouts, especially from some of these deeper ones, right? Like ARGX, this looked a little iffy, right? But I liked I like this resistance right below, but it just blasted out, and then it's just continuing to roll. So that's a positive sign. And then Tarsus, we talked about this during weekly review. It was a potential breakout, and then it tried to break out, but then it just reversed, sold off hard, but appears to have found a bottom. So the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of times you'll see these attempted breakouts just get flushed out, a nice shakeout, and then the real breakout occurs pretty much right after. And it's really hard to trust those because you're like, the stock just sold off hard. And it's right back where it was. It's probably going to do that again, but that's not how it happens, right? Those things just tend to continue to roll. So we're going to keep a close eye on Tarsus, and it wouldn't surprise me at all, particularly if the market does not test like a lot of people think it will, just continues to move higher. This thing could very well just set up again and provide another breakout opportunity.
Right.
And then VIRT, Virtu Financial. Again, I was looking at this last week. I decided to hold off on buying it, and of course, anything I decide to not buy goes up, right? Up a solid 1.9% today. Another high after its breakout. It broke out down here, and never, even though it would have stopped you out on a percentage-wise basis, it never flashed a sell signal for the algorithm, which is part of the reason why I created that, so you can ride some of this volatility out. But I personally, I have a hard time doing that, right? I see a loss like that, I just cut bait and want to move it into something else. So, but that's the reason why I built the model, and sometimes I have a hard time following those rules. But anyhow, it's just like we talked about, a nice shakeout. I found support at the lower VWAP, and it's continuing to move higher. So, simple rebound like we were talking about with possibly, what was it, TVTX? Yeah. No, it wasn't TBTX. What was it? Tarsus. Yeah, it was Tarsus. So you could have that potential same thing that happened to Virtu. Virtu is a little bit more extreme because the whole market was selling off hard, but it's kind of the same theory. And then lastly, lower holdings. This is just an interesting little chart pattern. I mean, it's really not set up well. It's really not tradable. It did flash a 3-and-go buy signal, but the buy is pretty extended from this point. The better part would probably be when it takes out this high right here. But the algo picked it up here. But it's just flagging out, right? Just a nice, nice, interesting little pattern. I like the reverse lows. And the reason why I like that is because you have a flat top. And so whenever you see the opposite, if it was going the other direction, I would be a little worried about that. But when it goes like that, for some reason, it tends to work pretty good. And I don't know why. But it's very interesting little pattern going on there. So it wouldn't surprise me to see lore blast out of that. It would be pretty good. But I think that's it for today, Matt. Those are the most interesting charts I found. This is the chart of the day for me too. The bond market. We want to see this settle down. We don't want to see rising interest rates like we've talked about before. So it's going to be an interesting. I know Palantir reported after hours, and it was down about 9 or 10%. So it's going to be an interesting day. I think futures were flat last I saw. So it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be some buy signals up from the algorithm today. So we'll have a couple of stocks to look at in arrow review.
All
But
right.
yeah, it's you just got to trust the model and take small risks and just cut your losses if it goes against you. So keep those losses
Yep.
tight and follow your rules. That's the best thing you can do right now.
Yeah, and I mean it's our first turn into from a pretty massive market failure. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
gonna be a little instability to begin with until people get more trusting and get more, confident in the market on its upward swing. And there's gonna be the people that saw massive losses and are like, finally people are here, sell, sell, sell,
Yeah.
So like you said, there's gonna be that little shakeout. There's gonna be some of that'll happen, probably. Again, we're not, you know seance wizards and know everything about the future, but history is a good indicator. So
Past is prologue, right? Isn't that what
there
the
you
saying
go.
is? Yeah, it's going to be, and can you blame us for being a little skittish, right? When the Treasury Secretary is out there having to convince global institutional investors that the United States is a good place to invest in, it's no wonder we're a little skittish as well, right? So, yeah, it's an interesting situation to be in, but you just got to try to turn all that news out, right, and just pay attention
Yeah,
to what the market's telling you. And we've
yeah,
seen some pretty successful breakouts. They're all running right to where we'd anticipate them to run at a resistance.
yeah,
The market is up right about where you would expect in a bear market rally to start topping out. So we are at the potential top of that type of scenario. I think the Nasdaq. I don't really pay attention to the 200-day moving average, but I think the Nasdaq is approaching the 200-day moving average, which might be prove to be some resistance. I mean, it still has when you look at the. Let's just bring that chart up.
while you're doing that, I just, you know, telling people, hey, America's an awesome place to put your money reminds me so much of my home state, South Dakota, during 2020 when we're like, we're open for business.
That's right. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So the Nasdaq still has some work to do, right? I mean, it looks pretty good. It looks a lot like a lot of the stocks that we've seen break out and hold up rather well. But it has its all-time high VWAP up here, still at about 18.5, and it's currently trading at 17.8. So it does have clear overhead resistance. So, the 200-day moving average probably represents that as well. So that'll be a little bit of a fight to get through. So there are some headwinds for sure. I mean, don't be surprised to see this thing turn south and test. But you've got the bottom VWAP down here, so you got potential for support. It's just all part of the process, right? And so I'm just following my rules, following the market, and just taking small risks, right? I'm not on margin. I'm not maxing things out. I'm not like, oh yeah, this is a 30% position right here. I'm taking 5, 10% positions and being very
Yeah.
selective. Like Vistra, Vistra was one of our breakouts today that we'll look at Arrow Review. I took a position on that, and so. But I know I've gotten better at taking my losses, right? And so, if you're not at that point yet, if you're not at the point where you're comfortable with taking a loss, now's probably not the best time to start learning how to do that, right? Because you're going to be forced to take some losses right now. Wait for a slightly better environment. Wait for all the markets to be firing on all cylinders, right? All that overhead resistance to be gone, and then breakouts are working, so you can ease into that process, right? Right now, it's still a little choppy and still a little risky.
Yep.
So we've
Yep.
seen quite a few breakouts work, but you just have to be prepared for those things to turn south. Like Palantir is right now, it's gonna get hit pretty hard overnight. So Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. I'm looking forward to it. Again, I've got some early profits taken, so I do feel somewhat comfortable with those current holdings. It's just those new buys. I'm always get nervous with new buys in any market. So I'm going to play them tight and see how it goes and give them a couple of days. And if they don't work, then just let it go again.
Yep, exactly right. Keep nimble.
Yeah, that's right. Well, where can everybody find us, Maddie?
Well, guys, follow us on all of our social media: Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky. We're getting better about posting on there daily and kind of getting what we're up to and just some more fun stuff. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, go to our website, vwapvision.com. That's VWAP vision.com. For those listening on YouTube, or I should say Spotify and watching on YouTube, click that like and subscribe. Make sure you come in here for your daily market update and what we see happening and the trends that we see starting to form. And if you want access to our algorithmic daily buy and sell signals, that's at Patreon, patreon.com/Empire Algorithmic Trading. And we have some educational videos and we have some cool people there that you can just hang out, talk with, get into the group chats and say hello and share what your wins are, what your losses are. We all like to commiserate when it comes to that. But again, patreon.com/Empire Algorithmic Trading. And that being said, happy trading, everyone.
Happy trading, everybody. All right, Matt. We'll talk to you during our review. See you soon.
See you soon.